Every day, we're here for you. We get things off the ground, keeping you connected. We're here keeping you safe and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. Every day, we're here. ARA. Here for you. Here for good.
Welcome to Quick Wisdom by Everyday Greatness, and thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Barnaby Howarth. Thanks to our major sponsor, the ARA Group, this is a show that offers something completely unique in today's trumpet-blowing, tyre-pumping world. Real conversations with incredible guests, including the Governor-General of Australia, the 2014 Australian of the Year, the coach of the Matildas, and Olympic and Paralympic medalists. Subscribe to Everyday Greatness on YouTube and leave a comment on the videos you're checking out, and let's start real conversations. I want to start today by thanking our venue sponsor, Alliance SI. Alliance SI is a business that's been ensuring world-class network connectivity for over 45 years. So if you have teams in your business scattered around the world and you need them to talk and work more efficiently and collaboratively, give Alliance SI a call. Based in Artarmon in Sydney, Australia, they're likely to have the answer to the problems you have with your business. Right, let's get this show on the road. Being humble in today's world is tough. With so many people just talking the talk and faking it till they make it, sometimes it feels like just giving life the best crack you can and being proud of yourself. Whether you win, lose, or draw is a failure. But my guest today, Chief Financial Officer at Alliance SI, who was voted one of the top 50 women in accounting in 2023, Carly Chant, has been operating that way, has been ignoring the distracting white noise her whole life, and just continues to walk the walk. Just humbly going about your business, working hard and being good to people, sometimes feels like it's not enough in today's world. But that's exactly how Carly Chant rolls, and is exactly why I'm excited to talk to her on a series called How to Stay Humble. Carly Chant, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, especially after the roll-off of guests you've had. It's such a privilege to be talking to you today.
Thank you. So before we get deep and meaningful, let's talk about you in the finance world. What do you do at Alliance SI day to day, and how did you end up here?
Good question. So I've worked in finance and audit my whole career, from when I was 18 to a few decades on as we sit here today. Have moved around a little bit, spent a lot of my time in professional services, and I was fortunate enough, after spending 6 years doing audit, left the audit world and stepped into a finance role fairly early on, and fell in love with the construction industry at that time, and really felt entrepreneurial really early on. It's probably a bit of a legacy from my father running his business and seeing and being around that my whole life, but saw a bit of a gap in the market for bookkeeping and finances for the building industry and trades. And that was a long time ago, but that was really the first time I met the CEO of Alliance SI, which was back in 2010 originally. And it's funny how you meet people and you collect people on your life journey and everything comes back around. So look, I was fortunate to have a first introduction in helping the business a decade ago, and it was a very different business back then, and helped them early on in the background of their finance business. Had that business for 10 years, sold that, moved back into professional services and CFO communities and worlds. And after leaving professional services, I had the opportunity to work with this business a few years ago and really help it on a growth journey that it was on. And yeah, small world, come back around and working in what feels like returning home, and being part of a really exciting stage of the business and its growth in a lot of the work we do with data centres, a CFO role where you're dealing in a hyperscaling industry and a very fast-paced growth industry. It's such a joy and a privilege, and there'll be a lot of CFOs out there that it's a real hard challenge of businesses struggling. You wear different hats as a CFO, so wearing a CFO hat in a growth phase of a business and in a growth industry is such a privilege, and I have a fabulous team that I get to work with, so it's a joy every day. It's hard work, but it's such a joy.
That's a very cool story. I didn't know that about the early days of Alliance SI. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, whether you like it or not, you're kind of a big deal in the finance world. Has being humble as a human being made it harder or been a hindrance in the finance world to get ahead?
It's interesting. When I started my audit career with PwC, there were not many female partners in finance, not many at all. And, I think quite honestly, there was also a certain style that partners and those that were really leaders in the finance world, particularly as women, really had to show a strong, aggressive, almost masculine side. We didn't have as many mentors to look up to. So there was part of that didn't appeal to me, but it's interesting how much work has been done for women in our field that really led example and you were able to lean to, and it might have been that you had not as aggressive masculine traits, but you could lean into your femininity, and it was the results were really positive. So I think that there's definitely, you need to grasp opportunities that are presented to you in your career, no matter what they are. And I think there's a difference though between standing on others to get there and empowering others and walking side by side or promoting each other. And I think that's something that doesn't always happen around a table. It can be whoever's the loudest, it can be whoever pushes their agenda. However, I think when you hold space for collaboration, when you seize opportunity that others may pass by, I think that's where you can really excel and move forward. And I know for me, speaking with you today, and when I get the opportunity to be on panels or to share advice or share insights, although I find it quite a challenge, I'm not a very extroverted person, I remember that there might be someone that takes something away from that, and that is something I value deeply in my journey. So although speaking in public forums is not something that comes naturally to me and not something it's still a bit daunting for me, I seize it because you don't have as many women that are up on panels and you have different representation. So anytime I get the opportunity, I do try to lean into it. Although I do find it challenging.
Well, you're doing bloody well so far. It's only been a couple of minutes, but you're doing well so far. So let me ask you, who have been the biggest influencers in your life and your business in the importance of staying humble in what you do?
First and foremost would be my sister, Angela. She is exceptionally humble and just pure hard worker. She's also very creative and has a lot of great attributes, but hardworking is really what inspires me. And I think I got my first job at 15. It was a real, which was scooping ice creams at the time, but it was all about leaning into hard work, because you can't control you can't control a lot of things. But if you step back to what you can control, you can control how hard you work. You control how high you raise your own standards. So I think if you lean to that, so my sister was at the Beijing Olympics representing Australia in sailing, and you would never know it. I mean, her children, don't really know that their mum is an Olympian. And in fact, my niece asked her just before the last Olympics, and I was saying how cool it is your mum was in the Olympics, and she turned around, she's 7, turned around and said, "Oh mum, what were you in the Olympics for? Was it gymnastics?" Because she just doesn't sit there talking about it. She's a huge inspiration for me. I don't think she really knows what a big inspiration she is. So she lives for her family and her friends, and she's a lot of attributes that I love and adore. So she would be up there. As I mentioned before, my father's always run his own business, and I think that's where my entrepreneurial pool comes from, and probably a few things that serve me well as a CFO, being risk averse and skeptical and all those things. It probably drives my team a bit nuts. But too, I know, my 2 grandmothers were real matriarchs of our family, so a lot of inspiration from the way that, particularly Shirley, my grandmother, how she made other people feel. And I think that whether you apply that to, my own children, my friends, my colleagues, in business meetings, if you can hold space for someone, if you can truly listen and really be there in those moments, I think that only good can come out of that. When you're really present with someone and really engaged, it helps you empathize, it leads to far better conversation and far better outcomes for everybody. So there's so many. I think in today's world, I really do seek inspiration on a regular basis. I think you can get stuck in the nitty gritty, but I'm inspired here by our CEO Rod and our general manager Clarissa. I couldn't work in the space that I wasn't feeling inspired. So every day I think that's a key to find that, and whether that be Christine Holgate and Ronnie Khan, and I read about people and their stories that are inspiring, and it helps me look at my standards, raise my standards, and what I do when no one's looking, and constantly trying to raise that. So that's probably how I link it back to being humble. It doesn't matter what other people see me do or not do, it's what I know I'm doing, and how I'm showing up, and that's what's most important for me.
Very cool. I know both your grandmothers passed away recently, so my condolences for that.
Oh, thank you.
Now, let me ask you, you talk a big game about values and holding space and all the small intangible things in life, but you follow it up with the actions you take every day. One of the things you say a lot is that you try and empower women to be better in the workforce. What do you do practically to help women become better workers?
Yeah, I think there are huge things you can do, and then there are things you can do every day. And it can be as simple as language choice. When you're in a meeting and people say, "Oh, I need to man up for this," or if I need to, you hear the people say, "Oh, he throws like a girl," and it's derogatory. I think it's even picking up on everyday language, whether that be out in the playground and picking up kids from school, or whether it be in the workplace, to really elevate women and question when things are not playing out that way. So I think, look, it's everything from trying to be a mentor for those that reach out and want support in their workplace. I really lean into female business owners, that there's far less, there's minuscule amount of venture capital, for example, that is offered to female founders as opposed to male founders, and all those sorts of things. So it's about getting an even playing field as much as possible. So we, as a leadership team and alliance, constantly looking at the gender equality across our entire organisation. We're in the trade and apprentice industry, that we go out of our way to try and look at diversity as a business, and that's something I do in every role that I'm in every place that I've worked, is really trying to promote that where I'm working. But I think it's really about extending that language out. So I think language is hugely powerful, so that's a big part. So I think it's sharing stories, it's women are great at creating circles around them, but it's helping women to be really selective, to have their tribe around them of support, because it is, you do have different conversations with different men and women. It's just how it is. So I think if you can surround yourself, for example, with other professional women, if you're in that arena, and share the challenges of juggling, say, motherhood and career, it's really important for you to find your place. There's, it can be challenging to, every female and every mother is going through a different journey. And if I take it from, I'm fortunate to have 3 young children, and I spend a lot of time at work, and that's at, it's not spending time with them. So it's got to be something that's really fueling for me. It's got to be of benefit and fuel for my family, my friends, and every circle that extends out from that. So yeah, I think sharing that, building a tribe, is so important, and something I've always worked really hard at doing to have a ripple effect, if you like. So that's the goal, something I work on.
So tell me a little bit about your grandmothers. They seemed like they were just old school human beings who just cared what people were saying and gave them the space to tell their stories and show genuine interest.
They did, they each of them had 4 children who had a lot of children. So they just adored family. They adored family. It was their number one. And, they were so interested, genuinely interested in every grandchild's life. But beyond that, their friends, they kept close. And I think it was that genuine delight to be in someone's presence and to share that is so engaging. And I think that feeling that I used to have of having, whether I had good news, bad news to share, and so I'd pick up the phone and call my grandmother, and she was there 100% on the end of the line. And what a lovely feeling to give someone that you're there, completely and fully. So I know I've shared with you that every year I have a theme for the year, and this year for me it's intentional. It's choosing what I do very intentionally. It's showing up intentionally. So it leans into that for me. And I was lucky a few years ago to do the Lifeline training course for being the phone responders, and they use a care framework. And it was such a powerful training program, and I just connected with it so closely. And a lot of it was about leaning to being empathetic and being really present on the end of the phone and sitting with people in their discomfort, because really the only person that wants to get out of that discomfort quickly is you, because you want to help them feel better and you want to do this, but actually they just want someone to listen. And it's interestingly how life plays out, but I think getting an appreciation for that was, created one of the most significant moments of my life, was being with my grandmother when she passed away, and with her in that room, and she was saying that she thought the end was coming and she was really scared. And I could have answered, "Oh no, you'll be fine," but that sort of came back around. I was like, "No, I'm here," and actually empathizing to say it is a really scary time. That would be exceptionally scary, because that's what she needed in that moment. So yeah, I think being completely there in a conversation, not thinking about what's going to come next in the conversation, that's a real focus for me, and it's something you do need to work on. Life is distracting. It's all built to be distracting. So that's something that I keep coming back from, and she was an exceptional example of that. You felt completely important when you're with her. So I hope that's something that I can, try and replicate through all aspects of life.
It's a beautiful story. You mentioned your family there. What do you and your husband Josh teach your children about the importance of being humble, and why do you tell them it's important to do it?
We actually had a good example of this on the weekend. My son had sort of a mini triathlon with his nephew, and they were running the race, and a team that was ahead of them missed one of the markers. They had to put their chip in. And so I sort of reached out and I said, oh, don't forget to do that. And it's my 10-year-old son and nephew were saying, oh no, then they'll finish in front of us. I thought, that's okay, because you're doing the right thing, you're helping others, and you're so look, I hope that's a big messaging that we're giving our children, and whether it be via sport or whether it be in the playground, it's just being kind. I think it gets missed a lot in some of society, and it's very hard for our kids to not have comparativitis, or and just have that comparing people. And my kids are 10, 7 and 3, so not as engaged with social media, but they that's such a lonely, challenging place for them to navigate. So if they can just focus in on themselves, if they can just really understand through school what really matters, their friendships and being genuine, being loyal. I hope that's what we're teaching them, and time will tell whether that's how they come out the other the other side of it. But they're gorgeous personalities thus far, and I hope that we can continue to show them that. And we're fortunate to have such an extended family and friendship group, so they have a lot of fantastic influences around them. So certainly not just Josh and I, but incredible friends that lay such a good example for them and their children, and their friendships. So
very wise. Now, speaking of your husband, yes. Joshua Chant is kind of a big deal in the literary world. So with you such a big deal in the finance world, and Josh such a big deal in the literary world, do you guys have to tell each other to pull your heads in every now and then?
Not sure we're both there in those industries that you claim, but look, for us it's, and what I've so genuinely appreciated is we've always been there to back each other. So you're familiar with Josh's story of he's been an athlete in his background and a coach, and always had a real passion for seeing people engage in sport for their entire life and not drop out on that journey. So he gathered research for years, and it took us to sort of say, no, back yourself, write a book, never even thought about it before. So that's something we've both done with each other. Our entire relationship is very much that if either of us has a passion we want to pursue, and I hope that's an example we set to our kids, that go for it, we'll back you. So but in saying that, he had to find his voice. So he wanted to promote ideas, and he wanted to showcase different clubs that have done incredible things to increase diversity and participation at their clubs. So I think he found it a challenge to not profess that some of these were his ideas, but it was actually showcasing other examples. So I think we're all challenged with a little bit to have confidence that we have something to say, something important to say, and something that can share a really positive message with even one reader, or even one team member, or even one business. So, and applying that to Josh and applying to myself, that in a business, when you've thought of a great strategy, it's having the confidence to say it out loud, even though someone else might think it's a terrible strategy. It's finding your inner confidence, I think, and being open to others' interpretations. You can't control people's interpretations, but putting yourself out there anyway and being brave to do so.
Very true. So if you're looking for your next read, For the Love of Sport by Josh Chant, grab it right now. It's a cracking read and you'll really enjoy it. So let me ask you finally, Carly, and I don't like to assume things of entire industries, but you must come across some real ruthless toolboxes in the finance world, some real results-driven, rude, obnoxious human beings. How do you sit there and bite your tongue when you see people get up on their soapbox and start spouting all sorts of crazy?
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, it creates opportunity. So if I am a D personality type, so I like results and I like that, but I think if I'm in a room with someone who wants to hear their own voice, is overpowering, I see that as an opportunity. You know, there's some great books. There's a book, Never Split the Difference, which is all about negotiation. So sometimes the less I say, the more I listen, the more opportunity presents. So I think commercially it can work fantastically for you, that someone can give a lot away by a lot of bravado, a lot of, you know, they can be part of that toolbox, as you say. And it's not how all results are achieved. It's really not. So for me, I seize that opportunity, and I know that I can weave magic as a result if I not so much bite my tongue, but instead interpret that as, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to get an outcome here because this person is not present in this room. They've got an agenda to push. I'll let them push it, and then I'll take that and I'll use that as an opportunity. So I think that's how you stay sane in the finance world sometimes, is, as you say, there's plenty of personalities. And look, the great thing about our industry is there is becoming far more diversity of thought, and that's just a great thing for every industry, but yeah, the finance industry is serving it well, so it's a good thing.
You should get into politics. That was so diplomatically said. Very nice.
I'm not sure about that.
Carly Chant, I want to thank you so much for joining me on Quick Wisdom today. It's been a pleasure talking to you about your family and your grandmothers and your husband and your kids. It's nice having a real human chat, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And thank you to our major sponsor, the ARA Group, for sponsoring our 9th season in a row. Thank you to Alliance SI for allowing us to film in your incredible building. And thank you all for watching. Subscribe to Everyday Greatness on YouTube and leave comments on the videos you're watching, and let's start a real conversation. Join us next week where I'll speak to Matilda, former Australian football manager, Simon Roberts. We'll talk about witnessing how Mark Viduka and Mark Schwarzer showed him how important it was to be humble, helped make Simon a humble man and a successful man. Thank you again for watching, and join us next week.
Every day, we're here for you. We get things off the ground, keeping you connected. We're here keeping you safe and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. Every day, we're here. ARA. Here for you. Here for good.